emailed you and invited you is because you are super important to me and to this church family, because we are a church family, and you are the core of the church. And so what I was hoping, I'm going to actually read something that I'm going to read this Sunday, but if you would not use social media today with this or text out, I really wanted to be able to share my heart as well with our bigger church family on Sunday, which would be super cool. So let me read this and then you'll know where we're going. It has been a joy and a privilege to both plant and lead North Church for the past 22 years. As I turn 60 years old this year, in a couple months, it's time for me to begin a transition towards a new leader who can carry us forward into our next 20 years as a church. My transition handoff will be completed in February of 2022. But here is what I hope is good news. I'm not leaving. I will continue to work on our staff full time, mobilizing people to mission and mentoring leaders both in our church and in our larger community. Here is more good news. Our church council recommended Nathan Mead to be our Foursquare district supervisor, Dave Beach, who is the person responsible for making this appointment. I wholeheartedly agree with this choice, and we have selected Nathan and Chantel Mead as the next lead pastors of our church. Super excited. Nathan helped plant North Church as a kid, and he leads the mission of our church. He has had many opportunities to move on, but has a strong sense of calling and love for this place. He has chosen to stay and grow with us here. He is prepared for this role both practically and educationally. Nathan has been a pastor here for the past 12 years and was mentored by some of our most seasoned pastors like Laurel Barr and Scott Kilpatrick. Through the years, he has overseen kids and youth and college and worship arts, and most recently our weekend teaching team. And for the past 2 years, Nathan has been coaching and leading all of our staff pastors and has experienced developing budgets and big picture organization. Nathan is a graduate from our SMI, Spokane Ministry Institute, is a BA from Whitworth in organizational management, and is finishing his master's degree at Life Pacific University in theological studies. Nathan is an excellent Bible teacher and proven leader. Chantel is also a capable leader who loves this church. Chantel came to faith here 15 years ago, mentored scores of our youth and leaders, graduated also from SMI, has a BA from Whitworth University, and is currently working on her master's at Colorado Christian University in Christian counseling. As a couple, they have been married 13 years and have 2 amazing children, Grant, who's 9, and Amy, who's 5. Our pastor, staff, church council, and district supervisor are super thankful for God's provision and that Nathan and Chantel said yes to this calling. We now get the opportunity to reach more, disciple more, build into the future with a proven leader couple who we know loves us and loves our city. My prayer is that God will pour out his grace on us through this transition, that we will attack our mission with fresh energy and effectiveness, and that each of you will devote yourself to Jesus and our church afresh. And please pray with us, the best is yet to come. So that's kind of the announcement, and I am excited about that, but I wanted to share more about the process. We'll have a moment, we'll have a time here in a little bit for questions and answers. Hopefully you can be formulating some questions here along the way. But I wanted to ask our church council to come up. And here in just a second, we as a Foursquare church have what's called a modified Episcopal governance structure. And what that means basically is that, well, it means a couple things, but one of the things it means in a situation like this is that a transition of a church or even any new pastor coming into a church is appointed by our district supervisor. So that's kind of our polity. And so that plays into how this transition happens. So our district supervisor, who we contacted, said, I can make an appointment from somewhere within the Northwest, or we can look into the church and see if there's someone that is qualified that would be developed into this particular role. So our church council met, and I'm going to have you guys come up and let me introduce you guys, because the church council are the ones that you guys can take the seats there. But our church council are volunteers from our church body. The combined experience in our church is about 60 years. I think several of you have been here the entire time, and a couple are newer. And our newer meaning 10 years or 5 years. So they don't always get that, but we have that in this particular group. So this is Elaine Watts here at the end, Jackie Holloway, John Fazio, Tom Shannon. So this is our church council that helps oversee the fiscal affairs of our church. But also in this particular situation, Dave Each, our district supervisor, wanted to utilize them as kind of the advisory board of, like, do we have someone here? So I'm going to let you start with Elaine and let you kind of explain the process, how it came about, and the process that you guys took.
Okay. Last night, Pastor Mike prayed that we would be able to articulate our thoughts well. So here's the deal. You've heard the saying that you become like the people that you spend most of your time with. Well, I spend a lot of time with my 100-year-old dad and 94-year-old mom. So I'm just saying, I'm gonna try and stay on track, but I did bring my notes. Thank you for being here, those of you in person and those of you on Zoom. And I guess the first thing that I would like to say is that this has not been a hasty decision or a lightly made decision. Pastor Mike and Dave Veach assured us that they have been in prayer over Pastor Mike's transition and when that would take place for over 3 years. So they've been, and Mike and Tisa have been praying for this for a long time, about this issue a long time. I better get my glasses on so then I can see if I'm staying on track. So, in addition to that, most of you know, or all of you know, that at North Church, we started out the year with 21 days of prayer and fasting in 2021. And then we joined Pastor Mike and the council joined Pastor Mike in another month of prayer and fasting over this decision. And God was so faithful. I took that very seriously, and I am just at peace with what God has done in the last several months as we've been meeting and praying. Pastor Nate has also made himself available to us as the council, and we were able to really hear his heart about North Church, about his calling, and frankly, we were able to ask him some very blunt questions, which he graciously received and answered for us. We then met as a council with Dave Veach. Dave filled us in a little bit more on what's been going on behind the scenes for a while. He asked us some questions. We were able to ask him some questions. And I know Nate and Chantel have also made themselves available to the folks at the district. So they come away with high marks and from the council and also from the district. So that's been wonderful. Mike went through some of the things that I had talked about before, but personally, I've also been able to see another side of Nate because we both serve on the board of Genesis Institute, which is a spiritual training and counseling organization here in Spokane. So that's kind of fun to see him step into a different role, and I'm impressed. I'm just impressed. I don't know what else to say there. He as Mike said, he has been serving here in various roles for 12 years, but he's also the son of the founding pastors, Mike and Tisa, and I'm sure he has fulfilled roles and done things in this church that none of us are aware of even. So he has a love for North Church. He has a heart for the mission of North Church. One of the pluses is that the mission will go on, as Pastor Mike said, instead of bringing someone from the outside where the whole church might look very different with someone else coming in. I have appreciated hearing his story and coming to it, and his coming to the decision with counsel, with mentoring, and seeking out his calling. And personally, I've heard him talk about wanting and desiring to be a lead pastor for a while. And if not here, then somewhere else. So we're glad he's going to be here, and he is taking on that mantle. But I also have appreciated that he's taken the advice of some of the people he counsels with, and his uncle in particular he talked about, in encouraging him to further his education, to go back to school, as Pastor Mike said. And as a highly educated woman myself, as a retired educator, I applaud that. I appreciate the time, the effort, the energy, the dollars that goes into that education. But education is just another tool in Pastor Nate's toolbox for him to be able to fulfill the calling that God has on his life. So plans are in place through the district for him to receive some mentoring, accountability, and advice and encouragement from men who have been in ministry in different situations. So I'm really, really excited for Nate about that. And that was one of my personal questions, was who do you have around you? And it reminds me kind of what Pastor Mike had with Phil Arndt and Ron Strong and probably others. But I think it's essential because leadership in a church is really, really tough. And it's often a very lonely road. So it's important that you have people around you that you can bounce ideas off, that you can let down with and just be yourself. So I'm excited for that. Change is often difficult, and I have been through a ton of changes in the last 17 years. Changes that have been really hard. But I say that to say God has been absolutely, utterly faithful. This is a change. And God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so he will be absolutely, utterly faithful in this transition as well. Let's see, what else here? I guess lastly, on a personal note, one of my deepest desires has been to continue in a more definitive ministry role. That has not been able to happen, and it's been a painful journey for me to have to give up large chunks of my life in order to take care of my parents. Change, though, has been good, and God once again has been up to good in my life through those things. God is up to good in this change as well. So praise to the Lord, because this is his church. And Pastor Nate is here with a calling on his life and a heart and a desire to serve, as do we. He's prepared himself, and we all know that it takes continuing a lifetime, actually, of pursuing the Lord as he pursues us, and becoming more Christ-like, and having the privilege to walk and work with the Lord in his work in this world. So that's what we're doing, and we're moving into a new era. So I would encourage you, lastly, would you join me in praying specifically and intentionally for our pastors, their wives, their spouses, and leadership, and their families. It's tough at times, And I'm really serious about that. I encourage you to put it in your calendar or put it notes on your phone, but do something so that we join together and pray for the leaders of our church. So, thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. And I have to follow that, such an eloquent speaker. Is it still on? Okay. Really, I have to say amen to everything she has said. And she's really talked about the whole, last 3 months of what we've been doing as a council. I found it a privilege to be on the council at this time and go through this process. My first thought was, well, Nate was presented to us. It's like, how do I say no? I was very impressed with the process of this transition. I had not been through this, and we were given very much an opportunity to speak our own words. That's a lot why Dave Beach wanted to talk to the council themselves, so that neither Mike nor Nate were in the room. And so we had opportunity, very much opportunity, to express any concerns and our wishes, etc. And then going through the process, I was also learned a lot about Nate. I'm not the youngest one on here, but I'm the one with the least tenure here in this church. But when I heard some of the background, I think it's, Nate, are you going to have a chance to share that a little bit? Yeah. Okay, good. Because when I heard this, it was like, okay, Nate is listening to counsel, Nate is listening to wisdom, and I'll let him share the rest of that. So, like I say, with all our prayers and chance to ask him questions, it just, he was the one. There was no other choice at it. And so what I'd also like to say is congratulations, Mike, on your opportunity to step forward in your passions. And you'll be missed, but you won't be missed. I understand you're saying, no, you're hanging around. And I also, want to agree with Elaine here that we all need to be in prayer and support and be a cheering team for Nate. Because he needs all of us behind him to be successful. He's got God, but he still needs the support of this congregation. And if he's successful, we're successful as a church in leading God's events for us. And I think I've got anything else to say. John?
When they ask you to come serve on council, you think you're just going to come look at budgets once a month and then you're sitting in front of 50 people with a microphone. No, it has been a privilege to be a part of the process, and I'll keep it brief, but Mike's leadership through this process, allowing our voices and others to be a part of it, and I think we've seen this over and over again, but just the desire to set it up for success as number one, get through kind of COVID season, which an instrumental obviously in doing, but really the 20 plus years prior to that, and then being able to also transition rather than disappear. And he's communicated that he will be a big part of that. And I think that we're all thankful for that and the leadership he's shown. And then just lastly, having gotten to know Nate and Chantel a few years back, doing life group in their home for a time, for me personally, I just feel very comfortable and confident that for our church, a lead pastor needs to be somebody who has a deep, genuine desire to bring people to Jesus. And I know in my time with him and his family that is number one. And I'm excited to see how that manifests over the coming years and watch him step into leadership and provide vision for this church. And I think as we walk through this together, that we'll experience a lot of gratitude for the way it's happened. And well, Nate will speak to his journey getting to this point, but I think it really does, it sends a strong message to those in his church about his heart for the people here and the community. So congratulations. We're excited for your family, thankful for you and for allowing us to be a part of this process too.
So, I'm not sure how many of you were anticipating this will be the conversation of the night. When Mike talked to me, a while back, as far as becoming on church council, we're sitting down for lunch with Panera Bread and everything else, I said, looking for some numbers, finances. I'm not a strong number guy, but okay, I can go ahead and serve. A couple months into it, look at some numbers. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to transition and be out here by 2022. Bomb! What? Say, okay. That was my first thought. It was, oh snap, okay. Because I have, my wife Jessica and I have been here since day one, 22 years. It was in half a gym in Northwood. And I saw Nate and Kenny, both teenagers. So I've seen them grow up. I've seen them, right. I see you, Kenny. Oh, no, so but you were partners in crime, sorry. Get through my association. So that was my first initial, wow, okay, it's kind of a big deal. And then I started thinking about it, praying about it, fasting about it. And I started coming to the realization of how blessed we are as a church family to be in this situation, quite frankly. Okay, we talked with the district manager about the supervisor about the whole thing. He oversees 250 four-square churches, 250 of them. In 2020, he went through 26 transitions of lead pastors dying or leaving because of different circumstances, and there's a lot of junk that can go down. The fact that we have a healthy founding pastor who loves this church, who's continuing to serve and love on this church family, and a son who has served on this church for 12 years, has that same vision, that same passion, I think you have to pinch yourself and really understand how big a deal that is. You can ask for a better situation for a transition for a church family, okay? Number one. Number two, I started looking at that father-son relationship, and Nate was very adamant when we sat down, just the five of us. Mike wasn't around, so we had a chance to talk about him a little bit, and that was always fun. But we had some very candid conversation, and Nate was very adamant that he did not want to move into this, position because his last name was me. He didn't want anything close to even smelling like that. And I remember looking right in the eyeballs, and I said, Nate Mead, you're the best man, period, to lead North Church this next chapter. No questions asked. So don't even think about that. It's not even a part of the process. The fact that your name is Nate Mead is cool. There's some benefit there, okay? Just as being a dad of 3 boys, seeing that legacy is awesome. How awesome is that? Okay, but so that was the process and praying and talking about it, just the joy it's going to be in this next chapter. And that's the thing that we talk about as a church council is, yes, founding pastor, upcoming pastor, that's all fine and good, but this isn't about them. Okay, this quite frankly is about North Church. This is about Jesus and the love that he has for people, and we're just a conduit of that. And so I think really kind of stepping back, and we've been grateful, thankful for the leadership of Mike and Tisa and Nate and Chantel coming on, but every single one of us has just as much responsibility, quite frankly, to make sure that this transition not only is successful, but we're taking the 20 years, 22 years of foundation and building on that. Okay? So anyways, that's all I have. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Cool. Let me just describe a couple quick things, and then I'm going to have Nate and Chantel, or actually, Tisa, why don't you come up with me? Tisa's been my partner in this ministry for 22 years. Second church that we planted. Have a seat. And she has been an integral part of this church, has actually led many of the different ministries along the way, and has inserted herself in so many ways to serve and give us a feel and an environment of beauty and of compassion for our city, and so many things that she is that I wish you could know her like I do. But this affects her as much as it affects me, so I just thought I would have you give your 2 cents on this too.
Okay. I wrote my 2 cents down because I thought I'd be a little nervous. But actually I feel okay now. Y'all are making me feel real comfortable. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say what a privilege it's been to serve alongside Mike as lead pastors for the last 22 years. It's been a real privilege. There have been countless times of just sheer joy, times and seasons where it's just been wonderful. In the process of making this decision, I have to admit that I've been a little nervous. Just of the unknown plans God might have for me, and a little bit fearful sometimes. But I have to say that my excitement for Nathan and for Chantel, it really supersedes all my anxieties and nervousness about the future. Just beyond excited and blessed. And I'm excited also just to remain an active member here at North Church. And I look forward to just continuing to mentor women of all ages. And we just love y'all, and the best is truly yet to come.
Well, I am super appreciative of the many prayers from some of my mentors and friends, and some of the various past elders and pastors like Ron and Bill and Larry has been a huge part of that, and Aaron and others, in our city that I meet with regularly. And this is definitely not something due to burnout. I'm not burned out. I'm not sick. I'm not dying. There hasn't been a moral failure. I'm going through the list here. Not moving, I love Arizona, but I don't want to live there. This is my city. This is my home. You are my family. When we moved up here, we left our family. And it's interesting how a church community can become your family. And so you guys are that to us. And so we have no intention to leave. We love this community. We love our city. And so I'm excited that we have a healthy transition ahead of us, and looking forward to mobilizing people, you as well as others in our city. I'll get more time to maybe work outside the walls of the church in our city and community with those that are planting churches and those that need kind of next steps in leadership or mentoring. So both inside as well as outside of our church, and I look forward to that. So thanks, Tisa. Let me have Nate and Chantel come up. How are we doing on time? I want to respect your time, but at the same time, and I'm going to give you a chance to ask questions here in just a minute. thought it might be helpful for all of us to hear kind of their part of the journey and how it led them to this place. And do you want to go first, or would you want me to? Well, thanks for having us. I really hope that you not only receive us, but really honor my parents. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And so, so much of my journey is wrapped up in who they are and the mentors that they've been. And so I know like eyes can be right here because this is the new person that has to prove themselves. But so much of my parents, the effort that they had, the call that they had to move to Spokane and to plant the church and to day in and day out, and as I viewed them, you know, growing up in their home and then been with them, there's just not better leaders that I can think of. And so I wouldn't be sitting here in the position to lead a church if it wasn't for my parents. And so, you know, Paul tells the church, the Thessalonians, to honor the leaders that came before them. And this foundation that they had set for the church is incredible. And the impact that it's made in the city goes so far beyond just the 50, 75 people that are here. The impact goes so far beyond even Spokane and the leaders and the lives of who've been saved through the real faithful diligence and watching them as they have led through many hard times, many difficult situations, people who has either unintentionally or intentionally hurt, you know, them, just watching their faithfulness to the Lord, their faithfulness to the city, their faithfulness to the church, really shaped my perspective of what ministry is really about. And it can be really easy to think that ministry is about what we do here on Sundays. But Sunday's like 1 hour, and so you have to have this whole other anchor behind what you do and why you do it and what the day in and day out looks like. And really being intentional with people and really wanting the best for them and wanting to see them grow in their relationship with the Lord. And most of all, see souls won for the kingdom. And so, I mean, I'm honored that I get to continue to work with my dad. I love working with my dad. And so I'm so honored that they get to stay. We were privileged, really, really privileged. I know like Tom and you know, tried to communicate that. And I know that, you know, Elaine and Jackie, you know, and John did as well, but we are privileged, the leader that we have. And I am so thankful for you, Dad, and for you, Mom. And so, yeah. Anyways, I'm trying to think where I was going to go with all that. I don't think I was going to go anywhere with that. I think I just, they should really, oh yeah, remember, like, I know it can be easy to be, eyes can be on me, but we should honor them. And they should receive honor that is due for the faithful service that they have put into for years and countless years of serving our city and serving the Lord. So. But on our story, I went on my first sabbatical. So after 7 years of being a pastor, I went on a sabbatical. This was about 5 years ago. We went on a sabbatical just to think and pray what God would have next for us. As we went on that sabbatical, we really felt like God was leading us at the time to plant a church. So we went on that sabbatical 5 years ago thinking we're going to go on that, we're going to get trained, and we're going to plant a church. So we went through and did a training through a ministry called ARC. We went through that. We went on a Foursquare church planting retreat with people from our district and other pastors from our area that kind of like pour into you and prep you to go plant a church. We had some mentors that we met with, my Uncle Chris, my dad. My uncle is also a former senior pastor and educator, and then met with my wife's uncles, who are both very successful in the business sector in Utah and in Denver.
And through all of that, the common denominator that really kept coming up was, none of them had really talked with one another, was you should go and finish your education. And so as we kind of came out of sabbatical, I went into it thinking that, we are going to plant a church, and I came out of it going back to Spokane Falls Community College. And so that was very interesting of like, Lord, what are you trying to do here? And so, and then even like when we were at the church planting retreat, no one at the church, I'm at the Foursquare church planting retreat with my wife. We're like, hey, we want to plant a church, everyone. And no one would talk to us about planting a church. And so, go up to, like this guy, Brad, who's there, and, our like coach, Mark and Bethany Wymore, and they're like, no one wanted to talk church planting. And, the whole theme there was not that we planted a church, but hey, you've planted a church. And, why would you, what God, the whole thought was, what God might have for you still at North Church? Why are you seeking to leave? And so we just left going like, weird, like, no one wants us to plant a church. And back that I was at the time I was a youth pastor, and I'm sitting in like Astronomy 100 with Running Start high schoolers that are so yeah. Anyways, through that, just God did a lot of work in our own heart and our own lives. Really fell in love with our education. We both pursued our education together. Really loved that, put our heart into the church, and really just felt like God will continue to unveil his plan. Church planting was the right time. And really felt as we wind our education down, God will open it up. This is what he asked us to do, that he'll be faithful in as if we pursue our education, that as that chapter comes to a close, God will bring something new. So I'll finish my degree before the end of the year. And so yeah, God's just been really faithful in the process for us. And as this, opportunity came, my whole heart really was like, they said, I don't want to be in a position like this just because, my dad's the pastor. I really want to be here because I feel like not only I can hold and steward the vision well, but because, I'm the right person, God has placed me there, and then others also saw that as well. And so I just really want you all to know, I love North Church. I really love North Church. My whole heart, my whole adult life has been here. I love the people. I love the mission. I love what we do. I can't see myself anywhere else right now. And so I love you all very much. And I love that we get to do ministry together. I'm honored and privileged to have served alongside of many of you in a lot of different capacities. And I love our church very much and believe that God has much left to do here in this church in Spokane, and to see people come to faith and walk together. So.
I was real good, babe, and so no. But yes, just yes to all of the things that have been said, and we are so excited. We're so excited for the future. Like it's been shared that I met Jesus in this place 15 years ago, and I can't imagine my life right now if it weren't for this place and the people that share the Lord week in and week out. And so I want to be a part of that in the future. And we're so excited for this to be a place where we can raise our children to know Jesus and serve him and follow him. And I would follow Nate anywhere on the planet. But I'm so thankful that we get to stay. And I'm very thankful that my kids are going to be here with us. And I'm sure that's a shared feeling that what a privilege it is that they're going to be here. Like what a amazing opportunity that presents to all of us. And for us, I know just having the best mentors on the planet and just having that sounding board and that wisdom I'm just thankful, and that gives me a lot of peace. And like I shared, that this is God's church, and He has been faithful, and He's going to be faithful moving into the next 10, 20, 25 years, that we have a lot to do still in our city and in our church. And we're just humbled to serve in this way, and we're excited. We really do think that the best is yet to come. And we're so, so thankful for the foundation that's been set here, for the Lord to do His work and to reach people and to love people. And like Nate shared, we really love this place. It's been incredible just to be a part of so many faith decisions over the last 15 years, just serving people here. And I can't imagine doing that anywhere else. And so we were very willing to leave, but so, so thankful that we get to stay. And we thank you for your support and your prayers, and all of you that are wiser and have walked this journey longer than us and know more than us. We need you so much, and we need your prayers and your wisdom, and we just really value you all so much, and are so thankful for that as well. And yeah, just would welcome your prayers and your grace as we embark on this exciting time that's full of emotion, as you can see, but again, just so, so thankful that this is what the Lord has for us, and we're excited.
Great people. I'm excited. Well, we've done a lot of talking, sharing our hearts. Love to hear from you. Feel free to, if you're watching via Zoom, feel free to type in a question. Anything is fair game, go ahead. I'd love to hear your questions or comments, because if you're thinking it, maybe someone else has the same one. So I'll probably hear you, so I was gonna give you the mic, but I'm most likely to hear you. Questions.
I just want to thank you for your service and your continued service and your role in assisting your son and daughter-in-law. But you guys have really already proved yourself to us, and we just ask for showers of blessing on all of you, and just for a powerful Holy Spirit ministry in this church and this city. We thank you.
Yes.
This isn't my question. I just had somebody text me.
Oh.
They missed the first 5 minutes, and they were asking if you're leaving, so they didn't actually see the leaving.
Oh, right. No, I am not.
Clarify that you're not leaving.
Yes. Yeah. So the question was, am I leaving? The answer is no, I am staying. You can't get rid of me that easy. So it's, yeah, I'm here, and I'm going to work with mobilizing people for mission. That includes you. That includes others in our city, as well as mentoring. I'll continue to be on the teaching team. I will be here. I'm not moving. Other questions? Questions about the process? Questions about transition stuff? Anything serious? Yeah.
Mike, you mentioned Dave Beach and the district's role in this. And one of the things I heard you say before that I thought was worth repeating to everybody was, when Dave was talking about whether he looks inward or outward for candidates as a supervisor, his first litmus test is the health of the church. Can you briefly mention that?
Yeah, so typically in an organization that is languishing or has some form of an unhealthy culture in leadership or in just its culture in general, then it's often more beneficial to bring someone in from the outside to stir things up, to bring some fresh vision, to maybe even correct the unhealth. When a church or an organization is healthy, it's doing well, it's reaching the city, its culture is healthy, its vision is clear, its mission is compelling. It's typically best, if you can, to find somebody from within that you can develop that owns the DNA kind of the church that can continue it in that fashion and bring new energy to it, of course. That's part of the reason for that, but to stay the course as well. So
That's what one of our churches that he thought that.
yeah.
And then a comment from online, just somebody saying they're excited to see what God has for us in the time to come. What a blessing.
Can you share what that process is going to look like for this year?
Yeah, so we have about 9 months, and one of the reasons that I don't think years is needed, because Nathan has been such a part of the strategic planning that we've done for years. He's been a part of our executive leadership team for like 5 years or more. Even when Laurel was here, he was kind of a part of that as well. He's had exposure to a lot of things. So the next 9 months will be looking for, I'll be identifying the things that he hasn't had as much exposure with, and then working directly with him. So he'll shadow me into some of those areas, like attending our council meetings. He's already been planning series and stuff, but we'll probably get into those areas of mentoring and development that are still needed, and he'll teach a little bit more than he is right now, and I'll teach a little bit less than I am right now. So that will happen as we kind of progress through this. Those are the big things that come to my mind.
Question that came in for Nate.
Yeah.
Will Mike and Tisa still read the Christmas story?
It's actually a question for Cameron.
Yeah.
How would you say your leadership style differs
So the question was how my leadership style differs from my dad's. Well, Wes, it differs a lot. Now, I think we have a lot in common. I think our heart and our focus is very similar on what we see the church needing. Now, how we get from point A to point B is a little different. I'm a little bit more of a direct person, and at times, I have been known to maybe be slightly abrasive in how I might approach a goal. And so one thing I've learned really well from my dad is he's such a team player. He's so humble, and so he's a very good listener. And those are skills that I have really latched onto over the last 12 years and have been growing in as well. But yeah, does that answer your question without getting into more details? I will say, I'm very excited for the day in which he turns in a PTO request and I get to hit decline.
Good day. Good day for all of us. Other questions? Is this for me, the question? Well, I'll tell you when it actually became, when it became real, is when the church council, I had asked the church council, this is back in January, I had announced I'm going to resign in a year, and gave them the whole story of how we got here, and then basically said, explain our Foursquare polity and ask them, do they see anyone within the church that could become the next pastor? And when they went by one and said Nathan Mead, that's when I knew it was real. Up until that point, we had talked about it at different times, And we reminded each other the whole time. And I mean, we didn't talk about it all the time, but a few times we talked about it. It was like, this is God's thing. You know, it's not my decision. I don't want it to be my decision. It's going to be Dave Beach, the council, others, kind of in a process. And if God wants this, it will be recognized by others. So that's when it became real. So pretty recent. Good question. Other questions? Did you have something?
No, I was just gonna say repeat the question.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nate, is there anything about North Church that you want to change or do differently than what we've
I think it's a good question, Becky. At the core, absolutely not. Oh, the question was, is there anything that I want to change about what North Church does? At the core, no. Like, I love our mission and our vision and our values. And so, that's, I was a part of the team when we developed our vision. I was a part of the team when we developed our mission statement, and I was a part of the team when we developed our guiding principles and our values. And so my little fingerprints were all over those, Becky. And so no, I mean, at the core of it, no. Obviously, with any change, there's going to be, there will be changes. I honestly don't know what they are. I know that they'll happen because I lead a little different, I teach a different than my dad does. And so there'll probably be some things, but there'll be more probably secondary issues, stuff in the periphery versus like the real heart in the core of what we're trying to do here at the church.
So I have a two-part question. One is, what do you think your biggest challenge will be?
People.
Repeat the question, so I see.
Two, what would your specific prayer request would be as we leave here?
Yeah. So the first question was, what was the biggest challenge that I foresee? And the second was, what can you guys pray for us for? What do you think our biggest challenge will be?
I think that with any change, even as good as it is, that there is a little bit of grief that is involved in the loss of what we've known. And we share in that because we love Mike and Tisa dearly, and they are adored. And I feel bad for anybody who has to walk and fill in their shoes, and we are not them. So we will never be Mike and Tisa as much as we would want to be. We aren't. And there's going to be feelings there. There's feelings that we have about it because they have been our pastors, and we adore them, and we are first in line for those that love them. So I think just anticipating kind of how that's going to settle with people. Again, Nate mentioned he has a different personality than Mike, and I would use the word like just a little bit more feisty, maybe. I don't know how to describe, but I really feel like I'm excited to see him let loose a little bit, and just knowing the depths of his heart, and so I think just kind of anticipating processing that with people, processing that obviously ourselves is a little bit emotional, because we are in a sense losing what is familiar to us. So we relate in that, and we feel all those feelings too. And again, just so thankful that they're here. So I think just that's going to be a little good and hard, and good and hard.
I agree with you, but I just feel like I gotta backtrack a little bit and rephrase maybe who I am. for a second. I have a very strong prophetic gifting, and so when I feel like the Lord is sharing something to me about the church and where it's headed, there's things that sometimes I just can't not say, and what the Lord's trying to build in me and share. And so some of that prophetic, I guess, calling that I feel like I have, and that like if anyone else feels that, if you have that gifting, sometimes it's like this boiling pot of water, and you're trying to figure out what to do with it. And so I guess maybe that's where like the feistiness comes from. It's really like I feel like it's a prophetic gifting that I have, that like there's just sometimes you just lean into that and you let the Lord clean up the mess. So, but then for how you guys can pray for us, I think I'll answer your two-part question in a two-part answer with that. So I think pray for us, one, and that we need your help. Like, we don't know what we're doing, and so like we do and we don't. Like, we need your help. This isn't, we don't want to like step in and then feel like that we have to, like Chantel said, all of a sudden rise to the level of Mike and Tisa. And so pray for grace for us, because you've bared with me for so long, over like the last, 12 years, or if you're like Tom or Elaine, 20. And so you've bared with me this long, bear with us a little longer as we, ramp up in that, and pray for grace that God gives us that through this process. It's not easy. And then I guess just the second one too is, COVID's a very unique time frame to be doing a transition, and isolation can feel kind of weird. And when we're all doing these things, we're entering into a spot in the church, the life of the church, and when people are relatively disconnected. And so I guess just pray that God will still move in that, not only in our own life, but that as we step into this, it's just a unique time frame to step into a leadership role. It's not easy, and there's a lot of decisions that we've been kind of hand in hand in a little bit over the last year. But now, like where the buck always stopped with him, all the COVID decisions kind of, there's a pressure there, and there's a weight there that just pray that we continue to make the right decisions as we move out of the COVID stuff. So, yeah.
Question from online. I've always appreciated the way Mike shares the pulpit with others on staff to bring the word on Sundays on a rotating basis. Wondering if that will continue under the new week.
So the question was, will the teaching team remain as it is now? Yes and no. So yes, in the sense of, yeah, like I share that same value. But no, in the sense of, I probably have a little bit more pull towards teaching than probably you do or have had. And so I love to teach and preach. And so that's something that I'll lean into maybe a little bit more than my dad leaned into. But yeah, the teaching team will still be there. You'll still see a rotation of people.
Can I say something to that? Just
for those who may not know, teaching is not my first love, and it's not my best gift. I do teach, and I think I've learned to teach well, and I've heard great, feedback along the way. But it's not what brings me the most energy. So just to be clear, some of why we have shared the teaching to the degree we have is because we believe in team. That will not change. Some of it also, though, is that I absolutely love it when I'm not teaching. So I know that may shock some of you, but I'm just going to lay it out there for what it is. Other questions?
There was one in the back,
Yeah.
back here somewhere.
in keeping with that, that is that. And so, how will we handle the process of prayers to be around maybe and negative reaction? And how is that going? How are we going to address impacted based on the church?
Okay, great. Let me see if I can frame this for those that are watching. With this transition, it may pose challenges for people that weren't in this room, or maybe even for some of you in the room. And how will we communicate that to others? Maybe, is that fair to the question? Address the impact of the negative perception of a change like that. The father, are you talking about the father-son thing, or just the transition in general? Yeah. Well, here's my hope. You're here and you will message that well, because unfortunately I can't have the same, without people being here or being watching online, most people won't get all of this. You have it. Please steward it well and share the heart behind it as you share with other people, because there's no way that we'll be able to spend this much time unpacking how we got here and what happened and what didn't happen and how it's not as crazy as maybe everybody thinks. It's not going to take away the legit grief that's there in a change, or just change. In any change that's large scale, there's stress and there's some loss and there's some new kind of find my new footing, and that's just normal. That's going to happen for all of us. But as far as the negative perceptions of it all, that's something you guys can really help steward that well and be the conduit of that, because one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you guys as the ones that we're in the ministry yoke together, reaching our city together, that you're people that I trust with that message. So yeah, that's the best that I would be able to say is how to address nepotism. Someone shouted out nepotism, but nepotism is when a relative gets an entitlement for something they did not earn. That's what nepotism is, and it can be unhealthy and destructive. In this case, Nate has earned this. He started as an intern in our kids ministry. He's worked through various and sundry roles over many years and was asked and nominated to our church council, who was not advised or recommended. I didn't recommend him to them first. They recommended him to me. So that's what I would say, is that it's an earned role and position, that he has the best qualified candidate for it, not based on the last name or some entitlement that wasn't. Elaine?
I did not address the one point that I think, as a person in the older generation, the necessity to pass the baton, because they are equipped to reach the further generation.
Yeah.
Do you want to just
So the comment, I guess, or the question was, how will the baton be passed, or it's a necessary thing to do as we age? Most of the time in most churches, pastors hold on too long. This is the research. They hold on too long, and it becomes their retirement kind of deal. And then when they get older, but what happens in that process, energy levels slow down. I mean, they slow down, and it takes an enormous amount of energy to push a vision forward. And so what typically happens is that, when the church is in decline, when the age of the church kind of mirrors the pastor, and then one day you're in a meeting going, how do we reach the young people? And we're not in that situation. We're not, but here's the deal, is that I need to pass the baton off. If you've been driving all night, you need another driver. I've been driving for 22 years. We need a new, fresh driver. And that's healthy for our churches. It means that we get to reach the next generation and the generation after that.
And now, does that mean that those of us who are older are no longer valued or needed? Absolutely, it's the opposite. You're needed even more because of the fact that this church needs wisdom. It's a multi-generational church that always has been from day one, and it will remain that. So our older saints are needed and important. And one of the things I hope to do is help you see that, to be mentors and be those that pray for and empower our next generation. That's our best role as older people. So.
Another online question. And part of the question probably begs for some more clarification. Is there a plan to fill the position Nate had after Mike fully retires in February 2022?
Okay.
So I think
great.
obviously you're not fully retired,
Right.
so we probably need to reiterate that, but also.
Yeah, so that's the big thing is, I'm not going to retire. So, yeah. So as far as hiring, or what we typically do whenever a transition happens here is we always want to look within our staff first to say, how can we better align ourselves to capitalize on people's spiritual gifts and passion in a way that and provides further growth for our staff. So that'll be the first thing we do. The second thing we do is we'll probably add people into the team that's needed. So that would be the plan. But I'm not retiring. I'm too young. So you get Yoda and Baby Yoda.
Josh?
That was kind of my question, because I know that in the past couple of years, we've lost some other leaders. And so the staff has been great at being able to take on all those roles that we've lost. But now with this transition, I was just wondering if we were bringing somebody else on at some point to help even out some of that balance load and all.
We will. Yeah, the short answer is yes, we will be bringing at least one other person on. Well, cool. All right, last question.
So your question is, through my prophetic gift, where I feel like the Lord is leading our church. Well, you asked, Wes. No, I feel like the Lord is leading North Church to fulfill the mission and vision that God gave us initially. I don't feel like there is a brand new vision that He is going to bestow upon me. I do feel like He is going to continue to ask us to be faithful to the call, faithful to make disciples, faithful to see those say yes to Jesus, faithful to those to get people connected, and faithful to continue to plant churches and see more and more people come to Jesus. I do feel like I guess for myself, that something that the Lord has been stirring in me personally, which I think coincides very well with our vision, comes when, I'm turning 33 in a few days, and here it's a good time to start ministry. So when Jesus entered into his ministry, he went back to Nazareth and went to the synagogue in Nazareth. And this is what he said. He said, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovering sight to the blind, and set a liberty for those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." I believe that North Church is very bright for that. That through our vision and mission, we'll see the liberty to those who are oppressed, sight return to those who are blind, and the Lord's favor will, yes, be upon us as North Church. So.
Larry, would you come on up? And Larry is, thank you, Nate, well said. Larry is a longtime, elder member, he's a volunteer pastor here at the church. And this is a man I've grown to really love and respect. just his leadership. And he has the heart I mean, we share the same heart in just wanting to equip and mobilize and empower and resource the next generation. And so I so appreciate you.
So Mike just asked me to summarize and pray. Right? So one of the things I just wanted to share was just how thankful I am for the process. You know, I really applaud the council for taking that responsibility. That is not easy. You know, that's the whole situation of being presented what I felt like a year ago as an obvious candidate, you know, but really running it through a process that shows good due diligence, engages, you know, the Pacific Northwest region with Dave and with the team. You know, I hope you all really can just receive that completely. I mean, we are so excited to move forward. And the other thing is, just as we leave here tonight, I mean, God's spoken. You know, praise God. We have an anointed pastor. We have someone who's going to take the lead. These next 10 months are going to be very deliberate, very intentional. Mike and I have talked through what that transition plan looks like. And leadership transition, I mean, frankly speaking, isn't done very well in the Christian world. And, you know, when you come into an organization and you see somebody as thoughtful as Mike, who's been thinking about this literally for the last 3 to 4 years, we've had discussions about this moment in time. And it's been very purposeful, very careful, very humble. And so we get the privilege of being part of the leadership that, well, we should feel the accountability to make this transition successful. You know, it's not just, well, Mike Batista and Chantel and me, and we're there. You know, for me personally, I wholeheartedly am receiving Nate as our senior pastor. And I am so thankful for him and Chantel and the leadership that they're going to provide. So I'm all in. And for me, it's going to be, Mike, what do you need from me? What do you need from us to speak into this process so we can be the voice to the rest of the church and just be excited about what God's doing, because he's already spoken and it's clear. And, you know, let's steal a sentence from our vision statement. We want people to say yes to God. Well, Nate and Chantel have said yes to God. And we want to say yes to them together. So just very thankful for that. So let me just pray and just close the evening. And just really, let's just come before the Lord. And Jesus, I just want to say, with all of us together in one heart and one voice tonight, thank you so much for responding to our prayers, for listening to our heart cry for direction, for clarity, for intentional vision, casting, and leadership appointing for the future of this beautiful church expression here at North Church. Lord, we're thankful for the men and women who served here so diligently. Lord, I'm personally thankful for the prayers and the attention given by the council and by Dave. I'm super thankful for Mike and Tisa to come out this process with open hands and an open heart. Lord, we together ask that you would just bless these next 10 months. They're important. Every way that we can step into that as leaders. Lord, if there's a need that's specific that you tell us, we want to step into it. If there's something Nate or Chantel need to hear of encouragement just along the way, Lord, may we be bold and kind enough to speak it out. In every way, Lord, we accept the responsibility as the leaders of this church to see this transition go well and to see Nate and Chantel take on this leadership with just great authority and great blessing. And when we say yes together to do that, Father, we know that you'll begin to touch the lives and continue to reach those that are still brokenhearted, still without hope, still desperate, still poor and destitute, still separate from you. We want to pray, Lord, with those people in mind, those families, those individuals, those refugees, those people, Lord, who just haven't had the blessing of knowing who you are. So we just pray together, Holy Spirit, that you would give us all this and more. We pray in Jesus' name.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And you know, this isn't the end of the question and answer time, so feel free to email me or talk to me or reach out to Nate or you know, the council, Larry, whoever. We're here for you.
So I know as you kind of dwell or kind of meditate on it, other things may come up. Feel free to reach out. We're accessible. And if you'll let me share that, we're going to hand you the announcement letter on the way out. But if you keep that for now, let me share that this Sunday if you would. And I'd really like the opportunity to do that. So kind of hold on to this until then would be great. We'll see if that works. Love it to work. So thanks for coming, everybody. Love you guys. Have a great evening.